name is Wendy McCready. I lost my son to heroin overdose a year ago. My son Alan was 17 when I first found out he was addicted to heroin. Before heroin though, he was addicted to opiate pain pills. And when that got too hard for him to get and too expensive for him, he turned to heroin. And that's when things really spiraled out of control. He was addicted to heroin for 7 years before he died. Like many parents, I didn't see the signs. He was in and out of rehab centers. When I found out my son was addicted to heroin, I was just scared to death that he was going to die. After he had been using for years, several of his friends had died. It was very terrifying. I had a lot of sleepless nights waiting up for my son to come home, always calling him and texting him, where are you, who are you with? Living with an addict is like being on a roller coaster going through hell. It's constantly a battle and a fear, not knowing where your child is and if your child's dead or alive. My son, he hated heroin addiction. He hated his addiction. He wanted so bad to get clean. He tried so hard. He came to me for help. We found a rehab center and he stayed for about 11 months, and it was probably the most peaceful 11 months in the past several years that I've had. You know, knowing there that he was safe. He was safe, he was not out using drugs. I didn't have to worry about him, I could sleep at night. But then he left. He didn't finish his treatment and he left, and he relapsed. And then it started all over again. And that's very common with addicts. They relapse a lot. It's part of recovery. For years we went through this, and it just tore our family apart. When you're an addict, you do whatever you have to do, whatever you can do and have to do to get your next fix. There are so many people out there that don't understand addiction and that it's a disease. They look down on the people who have an addict in their family, and they look down on the addicts. This could happen to your child. Don't think that it cannot happen to your child. Don't ever think this can't happen to your child. This can. It can happen to any child. It can happen to anyone. Addiction doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter where you live, what kind of family you're in. You know, my dad's a preacher. It doesn't matter. My son was brought up in a good family. My son was a good person. He was a good kid growing up. My biggest fear with my son being an addict was waiting on that phone call or that visit from the police or the coroner. On May 29th, 2015, my son lost his battle with heroin addiction. He died of overdose on that day. From that night, my life will never be the same. Now I have to struggle every day without my son. I miss him so much. My advice to any parents who suspect that their child may be using a drug, maybe you're not sure, my advice is to go with your instinct. It's very important to communicate, have open communication with your children. Talk to them, ask them questions, ask them who their friends are, who they're hanging out with. All of these signs, just watch for them, and if you see them, don't ignore them. Get help immediately. Talk to your child, find out if your child, you know, look in their room, search their room. Talk to people, talk to other parents who have gone through this, who have a child who's been addicted, or talk to professionals, call a rehab center, talk to somebody, get help.